Hi everybody, my name is James Baxter. I was the head of character animation on the Croods, and today we're going to draw Gran. So Gran is the elderly grandma of the Croods, and she's kind of low and little and bent over, so I'm just going to start by doing a real quick sketch of where I think her major parts of her body are going to be. So I got her head and her sort of bent over body, and she's got this long sort of staff that she holds on to, so I'm going to draw that in early, make sure it fits on the paper. And then she's got these little legs with bent knees, like that, and kind of big flat feet, like that, and I'll draw one arm, these long arms. All the Croods have long arms. I'll draw one long arm like that, and the other one's going to be hanging down with her bent wrist and her caveman-y hand, like that. So that's just sort of the basic plan for our drawing, and I can make sure that she's got her nice triangle of hair in there like that. So I can start to construct her face. I think I'll have her looking kind of towards us, with her eyes on this kind of line like that. So she's got pretty big eyes, but they're usually really, really squinty. So you don't see much of them. So I'm just going to draw little squinty shapes for her eyes and make sure they're on that same line. And then she's got a big bulbous nose. Which hangs out in front of her eyes, down and in front of her eyes. And then her mouth, if you think about her eyes and her mouth being on the same plane, up and down, so don't draw her mouth right underneath her nose, draw it sort of behind her nose. Really sort of underneath her eyes, like that. So you see how it's sort of sitting behind her nose, but underneath her eyeballs? That's because she doesn't really have any teeth, so her mouth kind of gets shrunken back. And then she's got her chin, which again kind of sticks out a bit. But it's a little bit roundy, like that. And then she has these jowls, which start from her nostril, and they come down past the side of her mouth, and then they form these sort of bags, by her chin, like that. So she's got one there, and the other one is over here. But you can see more of this one because she's got her head turned towards us like that. So they just kind of hang down pretty straight. So then, like all Croods, she's got this quite heavy eyebrows. And with Gran, they kind of come up and slope down like that in front of her eyes. And then her hair, she has almost no forehead at all. Again, most of the Croods don't have much of a forehead. So her hair starts right above her eyebrows and then hangs down in sort of a messy triangle of hair that just comes off the top of her head and sort of hangs down. We'll work on that a bit more later, but I'm just going to sketch it in. Cool. Then her neck is kind of saggy and baggy, but it kind of goes in like this. Maybe with a bit of a sag in the front, like that. Now her dress is made out of a crocodile skin, so it's kind of wrinkly and it's got kind of a weird shape to it with the tail on the bottom. But first I'm going to draw in her arms, since that's going on top of everything else. So her arms are real skinny and scrawny. So it's really a couple of tubes, but make sure you make her forearms nice and long. Get that crude caveman look. And then she's got long hands, long bony angular hands. And you can see her fingers back here with nasty long claw-like nails. And it's good to sometimes put in the lines of the bones inside of her hand. Make her look old, like you can really see the knuckles in there. We'll zoom in a bit later and do some more detail in there. And then her dress kind of ends at the bottom here, but it's actually got the little feet of the lizard or the crocodile kind of still attached to it. So it's got these little sort of floppy legs that come off it with like these little claws that stand off it right there like that. And then she's got scrawny legs, you know, with sharp, pointy knees. And then you see that little muscle at the back of her shin there. So the scrawnier you can make her, the better. And then these quite large, flat, gnarly feet. So you can see the ankles a lot. You can see the little shapes of the toes, the bones coming out of the toes there. You can see her big, nasty toenails. Yep. And then Gran has a tail. It's not a real tail. It's just the tail that's part of the dress. But it just sits there and drags on the ground like that. And like an alligator, it's got these little ridges running up it, like that. And then the front of the dress, like an alligator's belly, has these little sort of ridges, you know, as part of the scale pattern on the dress. So let's do the other hand. Again, these long, scrawny bones. We put her shoulder muscle in and her little bicep muscle in there. And then her skinny wrists, skinny bony wrists. And her thumb coming up over the stick. And then her fingers clutching the stick, kind of curled over and inside, like that. Now the stick, it's nice to have some curved parts to it and some pointy parts to it, where it gets thicker and thinner. It looks like a sort of a gnarly tree branch. So it's made out of sort of dead wood. So you got these twisty kind of wood grain patterns going through it that sort of twist around it. All right, so now we're in a bit tighter. We can actually see what we're dealing with. And I can get a bit more accurate. So with my eraser, I can just rub a few things back and get things the shape that I really need them to be. And I can do her squinty eyes like this, very squinty, with a top eyelid like that, and then a lot of bottom wrinkles underneath her eye too. And then right inside there, I can draw her eyeball looking at you. And I can just rough in a couple of very quick sort of wrinkles on her lips. You know, give her that old lady look. I can define the sweep of her nose as it sweeps down between her eyes like that. All right, now I can start working on this sort of scraggly hair. Now the hair, you could just make it really messy, and it's just fun to make it messy. Put in a few like strands behind her neck so it gives it some dimension. But then in front, you can just make these sort of messy, straggly shapes. And it's nice to leave some gaps and some concentrated parts. And then these just sort of hairs that go off into nowhere because she's never brushed her hair in her life. I'm going to take my eraser and just get rid of the things I don't want. Back there. I think I'm just going to put in the other foot. You know, the other lizard foot that hangs down beside her body. I'm just going to put it in very simply back there with a couple of claws. So I'm just going to neaten up this, make it look like a solid object. I'm going to leave a lot of the lines in there, though, because it's nice. It makes it look like wood if I leave a lot of these extra lines running through it. But I am just going to neaten it up to make sure it looks solid. Cool. So there's Gran. Just turn off that other part of it. And there she is in all her crusty glory.